Welcome to the most important week of the year for the podcast industry. Welcome to Podcast Movement 2025.
Check.
1, 2. Oh, okay.
Hello.
That is so weird. It actually doesn't feel too bad.
No, it doesn't
Yeah.
actually.
If you can hear me, wave at me. All right, everybody, welcome. We're so glad you're here. I'm going to spin some tunes for you with the lovely Miss Rockie Thomas.
Rocky. We'll get going here in a couple of minutes while everyone's getting on. So you guys all look like you have the white on. That's very good. Very good.
This is the nerdiest thing I've ever participated in. This is great. But I do like it. I can say, dang it, Jay Lewis, I see you.
And if you switch your channel, we will know.
Yeah.
Don't be listening to these people on the other
hey,
side.
Blue.
We're
Hey,
gonna,
Blue.
hey, blue, right
Blue,
there,
I see you, blue.
Right. Mike has blue. He's on blue.
It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It's right after yellow. There you go. Right on. All right. Let's go ahead and get this party started.
I thought I would hate this. I actually kind of like this
It's
now.
actually
it's
not
like,
that
it's
bad.
like an in-person podcast.
Yes. So, welcome everybody. I'm Rockie Thomas, Chief Strategy Officer, SoundStack. As you guys
Rockie
can see.
Thomas.
I love that I have a liner. It makes it really fun. I am honored and geeked and thrilled and everything else to be with Adam Curry, who really is the reason why we're here. As you guys know, the Podfather is in the house. But what we want to talk, yes, let's get. Oh, look at this! You have fans.
Groupies. I got groupies.
You are.
Yes.
That's very cool. It's very cool. And so we want to go ahead and talk a little bit about podcasting 2.0. We want to demystify it a little bit, talk about the podcasting index, and then also Podcast Standards Project. There's a lot of cool things happening in podcasts. We just want to make sure you guys are all aware about it, and from like the master right here to talk about it.
Okay, I do have to say all
Yes.
glory to God, because I thought I invented podcasting, but I think I was just there and I showed up at the right time.
Well,
That's
you
an
know,
important distinction from where I was a couple of years ago.
I know, and so I think I want we have to make sure these guys are awake every once in a while. How do you think we should do that?
What? How
Yeah,
they're awake?
yeah.
No, just yell at them from time to time.
So
just
should
call.
we say 1, 2, 3, go podcasting?
Okay, camp cheerleader.
Fine,
Go for it.
Fine.
Go
1,
for it.
2, 3. Okay, we got to do this one more time. 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right,
There you
let's
go.
get this party started.
go.
All right, okay. So why did you go ahead and start the podcast index? I think a lot of people don't understand what that is,
Okay.
or don't even know where it started.
So a little history of that. About 5 years ago was actually around 2019. I'd just been happily doing my podcast, No Agenda, with John C. Dvorak, and all of a sudden, Apple decided to remove some podcasts from the Apple Podcast database, which is their prerogative. But what I realized is that so many independent apps and services talk to the Apple database that these podcasts went away from all different kinds of places. And it doesn't really matter which ones they were. It was Alex Jones and a couple other, interesting podcasts. But to me, that doesn't make any difference. And so I literally called up my friend Dave Jones, who we've been building completely unsuccessful products together for about, I think about 10 or 11 years at that point. Freedom Controller, anybody? 3 people have installed that. But we just built stuff that we wanted to build. He's a lovely guy. We've only met in person twice, I think.
Yeah.
So we just have this ongoing relationship. And I said, Dave, here's what's going on with podcasting. It's like, and I want to be very clear that without Apple, we probably wouldn't be here where we are today, or might be in a different place. So I'm very grateful for what they did. I'm grateful for Steve Jobs, who put it into iTunes initially, even before we had smartphones, when it was truly the iPod.
And they're still supporting Open RSS.
And they, of course, no, I mean, they're good people.
Yes.
It was just, the business side, I understand where they were coming from. But it also had kind of made Apple the default on-ramp into podcasting. If you weren't on Apple, then you might not be in other places. So I said to Dave, Dave, I think we should start an open database of all the podcasts that are available, and we'll build an API for developers to build whatever they want on top of that. And Dave went, okay, as Dave always does. Now, so what we then did is he started building the infrastructure, and we had these. I love that Ted's here. We had these little $5 Linode mini instances that we'd spin up, and we started by sucking out everything from the Apple database, scraping it literally, be like, changing IP addresses and going like at one every 2 minutes, so it took months.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we didn't want to break terms of service. We were kind of good, and we had no timeline. So we had that done, and we set it up, and Dave's like, so how do we run this? I said, well, we put our own money in to get everything up and running. He said, we'll do it value for value. And we'll do a podcast to go with that, which we then called Podcasting 2.0. That's kind of the genesis of that name. And the podcast, we were just very analogous to when podcasting first started. The Daily Source Code initially was literally a podcast for developers. And I would say, oh, there's Andrew Grummett. He's working on this. And it was just me just yapping away. And it was a great way to test because there was a daily show every single day. There was something new in the feed. And we discovered the silliest things that you don't even think about. Like if you have a podcast app and you subscribe to a feed, probably not a good idea to download all 100 previous episodes when you're on dial-up modems, which is what we basically still were at the time. And so we said, we'll just ask people to support it. And they did. They started supporting it right away. Just through PayPal. We also came up with something called the value tag, which enables people to, because I'd also kind of gotten into Bitcoin and the Lightning Network at the time, and I saw what a great way to do value for value, where you pay as you go, and since Bitcoin is divisible infinitely, basically, you can pay pieces of a penny per minute that you're listening, and so that kind of got its own track, and there was one other. What Dave said correctly is, let's build a namespace. What's a namespace? Well, that's how you can extend any type of XML format. So RSS is XML, and you can't add anything to it. And turns out, actually, for over a decade, there was a lot of people in groups and Slack rooms and all kinds of stuff. Well, we're never going to do this because Apple never can do anything, man. And it was completely true. It was like stuck. It was like in irons. Nothing could happen. So I said, well, why don't we just make everything that everybody wants to do? And we'll put it into a namespace, which can, that extends any XML format, including RSS. And so the first thing we brought in was, I think, the Podlove chapters, compatible format, which are just chapters now in the namespace. And then the floodgates opened up. It was unbelievable.
So are you getting people from the industry who are basically suggesting, like, say I want to have a new tag or namespace? How does that whole process work? So as a creator?
Basically you get on podcastindex.social, which is just a Mastodon instance. You can tag anybody from any Mastodon, or if you want an invite, just email us and we'll give you an invite. And that's kind of our group, which I think was one of the smartest things we did, is to have this kind of social media-like environment. Because GitHub, where people propose things and then there's 5,000 arguments for or against it. And with Adam and Dave, it's like, oh, that's a cool idea, write it up, but okay, here it is, what do you think? And then Dave puts it in the database, and then if it gets used, it gets traction, then it does. If it doesn't, oh well, then it's just there. So the people that showed up are many of the people and the faces I see here in this audience today, but also really hardcore developers, people just interested, complete artistic wackos who I love the most. Like, what if I could do this thing? And so out of that came a number of new tags, including chapters, transcripts, which arguably has been the most successful. Thank you, Apple, for adding that, and now many more. And then the app developers showed up, and the app developers, some started to adapt their existing apps. And part of the value for value idea was kind of cool, that if you send a payment through this Lightning Network system, that the app then also gets a piece of the action, which is a big incentive for them. It's been a very rocky road. Sorry to use that.
That's okay.
It's been a little troublesome, just for Bitcoin itself, legislation, and it doesn't have to be Bitcoin. I would love it to be, but I think
it can be fiat. It can be whatever.
Well, I think stable coin.
Yep.
Stable coin is the future.
Yes.
Stable coin. So we can do it with the stable coin, whatever, and I think we'll get there eventually. But app developers, they also just really, they usually build things for themselves initially. It's
Yeah.
very hard to make a business out of it.
Yeah.
And so they'll have premium features and stuff like that. And so that just started to grow. And then we got James Cridlin came in. He started reporting on it, he was kind of like the town crier of
He's behind us. That's right.
he said, let's switch to channel red and talk to James. So that it really just kind of caught storm. And every week, Dave and I will Friday afternoon do the Podcasting 2.0 podcast, which is just a name. I mean, everything that we have done is completely backwards compatible with any podcast app. It doesn't break anything. I would say one of the most exciting things there's two things that are very exciting. One is PodPing, and this came out of the group, Sir Brian of London. We have cool names. Sir Brian of London, he really started this off. And it's on a blockchain. It doesn't really have anything to do with money, but in other words, it's a distributed database that no one controls and no one can stop. And when you publish your podcast, you send a little ping, literally, to PodPing, and it tells the podcast index, oh, this podcast is now updated. And so the result is that we now have hundreds of thousands of feeds from RSS.com, Buzzsprout, Blueberry. I'm forgetting a whole bunch of people. You didn't mention my name. Who send out these pod pings the minute you publish. So with a modern podcast app, as we call it, you'll be up. You will know within 90 seconds of the podcaster publishing their podcast because your notification will pop up.
How is that better than what we were doing before?
Just sitting there, spending computer cycles, polling feeds millions of times a day.
Before it was a pull, now this is a push.
Well, it's still many organizations still do that. I know one day Apple will come in after they've rebuilt it and called it something else, and it's done the exact same thing. Ted, I love you, man. You're the best. But because that's really what happened is, podcasting when we started was, whenever there's a new episode, it'll come in. I'll just be delighted because there were only, a handful of podcasts. Yeah. And, there's a new one. But now people are organizing their lives around podcasting.
Absolutely.
Especially since, initially was invented because you had no time to wait for 20 minutes for the podcast to download. That was the initial idea behind the subscription, the RSS subscription. So now it's like, it's 2:00. If my podcast that I listen to hasn't dropped, I'm anxious. I'm like, what can I do? And then even worse, I may go looking for something else, and then I may not come back to that podcast because people really organize their lives around release dates. And I see it myself. Things do go wrong, things happen, and then what you typically hear is, you haven't uploaded it to Apple. No, that's not exactly how it works, but and it happens with all kinds of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a decentralized system. It by itself is just so beautiful that it works. It's amazing that any of this stuff works at all. So the PodPing, I think, is a great resource for people to use. You can actually ping it from a web browser. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can let the index know, and all of these apps are aware of it. And it works particularly well with something we call the lit tag. So
lit?
Yes, which LIT stands for live item tag. We long ago decided it doesn't matter what you call something. That's for the developers to know. But basically, you can go live in a modern podcast app. So you can now add a live stream, into your RSS feed, and then you tell PodPing, hey, apps, we're about to go live. Now, John C. Dvorak and I have been doing our show live for almost, probably 16 of the almost 18 years. Podcasting 2.0 podcast also is live. So you send out this ping, everyone's phone goes, bing, they're live now, and you tap it, and you're listening live. It's an amazing experience. And if you can't listen, you know that the minute the recording is released, you get that ping within 90 seconds, and then you can listen to it. With that comes a real beautiful way of interacting. I call it the studio audience. It's not widely deployed in podcast apps, but there's many ways you can be in a chat room, which changes name for me. I mean, during No Agenda, it's not the chat room, it's the troll room. During Podcasting 2.0, it's the board room, and we have different channels that you can sit in. And it doesn't stick around, so people can say the most horrific things, but it scrolls off and it's gone. But throughout the years, I've developed kind of this peripheral vision I'm like, oh. And I just see these things that pop up, and often it's a great fact check. It's a one-liner. Curry, you suck. There's a lot of that. But it keeps us on. It makes the recording so exciting.
Yeah.
And on show days at No Agenda, anywhere from 1,800 to 2.5, sometimes 4,000 people will be in there and listening live. And it really, that's why great talk shows, although they can't afford their own staff anymore. Live audiences, there's something to be said for it.
Well, it's that constant. You feel the community live,
yes,
and they're giving you like comments and feedback like in real time.
Yes.
So do you where do you see that kind of going? So everybody understand live item tag because it is a little. So that basically means that when you're about to go live on your podcast, you're able to drop it, and then it's just like broadcast. It's one to many. Everybody's listening at the exact same time. Sometimes I join late, and it's going to be 8 minutes into it. So it's not like it starts from the very beginning. I just want to make that really clear.
There's also a lot of banter before we even start the show, which
Yes.
is why I think a lot of people tune in, is to listen, like, what are they saying before they hit
See,
before
and
they
I
hit
didn't know
go?
this when I was when I was on podcasting 2.0 last. I can't remember what I was talking about. I didn't know I was live.
We don't remember either, Rob.
That's okay. It's fine. And so, but then all the guys like, it's a girl. And that was like.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, my wife also went, Rockie's a woman? Yes. How old is she? Where's she from?
But it's really fun because you're able to really interact with everybody. I think that's the
Yes.
exciting part. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we're losing journalism in the local markets right now. And this is actually a way that we can start bringing journalism back to the local markets with, think of the opportunities that we can be doing with live item tags. It's just, it's incredible.
Well, you're actually going into an area now that is near and dear to my heart. As much as I love the podcast industrial complex, we've completely moved away from the original beauty, I think, of podcasting, which was any moron with a microphone could just start a podcast, and that was actually, I thought, was beautiful. I didn't want professional voices, didn't have to be slickly edited. I'd listen to Dawn and Drew in their farmhouse. I'd listen to Michael Butler, Rock and Roll Geek Show, drinking a six-pack, talking about his horrible gig that he had. These and some of them still exist. These were really wonderful things to listen to, and I think that with the technology we have now, the opportunity that people are missing is you don't have to be Joe Rogan. You don't have to have, be on the chart, be the number one. You can do something cool for your community. And by the way, if you look at the media landscape, all media has left local. You may have a local television station that has the 6 o'clock news, maybe if you're big enough, if the city's big enough. But most of America and the world actually is built out of smaller communities. So I live in Fredericksburg, Texas. 11,000 people live there. About 2 million come through during the year for just tourist reasons. Please visit our wineries, all 300 of them. Drinking barns for bridesmaids. But we have one newspaper, and it comes out on Wednesday, and it's politically slanted to one direction.
Yeah.
So the only way people have to hear about what's going on in their community is the Facebook rants and raves page.
Yeah.
And everyone has one of those in your neighborhood. It's horrible.
Yeah,
It's a crap show. So starting a podcast just about, we have all kinds of podcasts now going in Fredericksburg about the wineries, of course, but also what's happening at the city council. And it's literally as simple as Karen, who goes in there. She's very active. She records something on her phone, puts it into an RSS feed, which has been actually rss.com she uses. Boom, it goes in. It's a podcast. She lets everybody know. She's an active part of our church community, so everyone's listening to Karen's podcast. With the same, I'm going to get the sheriff to do one, because traditionally the newspaper will not report on what the sheriff's office is doing because, we're it's really important that the tourism doesn't hear that we have actual crime in Fredericksburg. No. So the sheriff, he's proud, like, hey, I got that, I did this, I did that. We're cleaning up the streets, we're making things safe. So this is how you can really contribute to your community. It doesn't have to be a money-making venture. It also doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of time. All of our examples are, you got to be on YouTube with headphones and microphone. Boy, we're kind of doing it. And it's complicated, but it really isn't. Conversely, if there are any developers out there, there is such an opportunity to build different types of podcast experiences, different types of apps. We're kind of stuck in the inbox model. And we're eating our own dog food. We built the Godcaster app, which is a combination of podcast feeds and live feeds where we have aggregators. So basically, there are hundreds of radio stations, but also thousands of churches who now have their own little podcast app that they're filling up with what they want to show to their community, and people are either going to their website and using this, or they're downloading the Godcaster app and using it.
So then for the live to really work, though, it's really streaming.
It's 100%
It's 100% streaming, so it's very different than how we've been delivering podcasts today. It's really been, we've been doing the download, which is great. I mean, it's been fine for a while, but what the live item tag and what live does, it actually puts us into a streaming mode, which is one that I think is going to be more adopted, more like. But what do you, I mean, so HLS has been talked a lot about as one of the opportunities.
Is that a bank, HLS? Can I deposit money there?
It's HTTPS live streaming. Okay. Apple puts a 4-letter acronym into a 3, so I think that's been like something that a lot of people have been talking about because it also has that capability for video, if we ever want to go down that road. But do you find that that's going to be where we want to go for live item tag, or do you think it's?
You mean HLS?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever works. I mean, I'm really when it comes to that, I'm sure there's all kinds of
we could do
benefits.
AAC, we could do anything. As an alternate enclosure tag, you can put anything that you really want from a media standpoint.
Now you're going all the way into alternate enclosure tag. So we have come up with a lot of different things that you can do with your podcast apps. I would just say, however the streaming works, I'm all for that. I think the live streaming, whether it's HLS or LMNOP, personally, I am not for video in podcasting. I think that we've psyched ourselves out that, and by the way, if there's anyone from Google is here, you did a good job. You hijacked the name podcast. That's good. But 70% listen and aren't necessarily watching. I personally don't feel it's so necessary for podcasts and podcast apps to do video. I won't use it. I haven't used it. It hasn't affected my business at all. I mean,
but it's options.
But it seems like it's a knee-jerk reaction to a much bigger issue, which is just keep doing your podcast. Don't worry about what people are saying. Don't worry about the marketing that Google is putting out there, and also come up with different experiences where people can. I still, after 23 years. 30% of people who listen to my podcast go to a website and click play. I mean, it's just the facts.
It's habits.
Habits is also, noagendashow.net. Oh, okay. By the way, all the podcasting 2.0 features are there. Chapters, all of that stuff, even the transcript on the website. Click. People love listening to it there, too.
Yeah.
So it's not an end-all, be-all that you have to have video on YouTube.
Yeah.
But if people want to do it, power to them.
But I think, by doing the streaming, we're able to go ahead and make that a live, basically a live event that happens. So you're able to have that connection with the community, regardless of how you want to go and do it, whether it's audio or video, but definitely on the audio side. Is there a problem with, I would say, app developers adopting these type of streams?
No, many of them already have.
Okay. Like most
Fountain, Podcast Guru, Podcast Addict. Oh, goodness, I'm forgetting a whole bunch, of course. It's very easy, actually, for them to incorporate it.